Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video. For today's video, we'll talk about two different items. The first is this new map of Giga Texas and the property that I have made. This is at the start of every video. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen is a map of the overall property with key areas highlighted. On the left is the legend that describes each of those areas, and in the middle is a diagram of the main factory with all of the key areas identified. So make sure you check this out on every video at the beginning, and you can pause and take a look at this to get a good reference to all of the various things going on here at Giga Texas. The second discussion item for today is the crash testing track construction just to the east of the battery cathode plant. We have some more details to go through, so let's discuss. Here's a close-in image of some of the construction going on at the south end of this structure. You can see that cable track trench down the middle. Also, this underground vault that was constructed and it's getting ready to have concrete slab poured on top. Thanks to my ex-subscriber, FH-Y Booster, we have some additional information, so thank you very much for that. You can see that this small pit on the left-hand side is where the cameras will be. This is a crash wall, this underground vault that's being constructed. You can see that kind of teal dash line where the cable goes through, and then it will continue on to where the pull motor is installed. This image gives you a closer in view of what this may look like. You can see how that crash wall and the cameras are associated with this structure. And here's a short video that Tesla released teasing the Cybertruck crash, but this gives you a really good view of what this structure may look like. As we zoom out and take a look at the south end of the construction of this structure, again, thanks to my subscriber FH-Y Booster, you can see this dashed teal line. That's the cable. It'll go through the section where that crash wall is under construction, and then further south to where we see that formed in square section with the rebar and the moisture barrier. Also, we see electrical conduit coming through. This is where the electric pull motor will be installed. And on the north end of the structure, we see a few interesting details. We see some old Model X's that are kind of looks like they are damaged. This may be vehicles used to test this structure when it's ready. We see that new steel structure as of the 4th of August being erected. We also see a full vehicle rotisserie that has been delivered on the site. And here I'll zoom in to give you a good view of that rotisserie. Now this is a very substantially constructed one, and it's very large. And you can see with the inset that it has the Tesla T in the steel itself. Now here is an example of what a vehicle rotisserie would look like, so you can kind of imagine how it would operate in this section. So there you have it, my new map illustrating the larger Giga Texas property and also the details of the factory. And again, this will be in every video at the beginning, so you can stop and take a look at that to reference what is going on. Also, we talked about the crash testing track and some of the details about that construction. And again, thanks to my ex-subscriber FH-Y Booster for your help. I hope that you found this information put into context what we are seeing around the site and that you found it helpful. So let's get into the drone and take a look at how Giga Texas looks today. Thank you to my Patreon members and ex-subscribers. Members and subscribers gain access to hundreds of high-resolution images, previews of future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. Well, good morning from the southeast side of Giga Texas. We'll start here at the clearing that is continuing to be developed for the multi-level parking garage. And what we see is on the right-hand side clearing, it looks like they are building a diversion, kind of a square shape of the outfall channel so that they can remove the one that's in the middle, separating these two sections, and then make that all contiguous for the construction. And here you can see a good close-in view of the work that is going on and how it looks like to the left where the excavator is part of that new outfall channel, and it follows along the bottom of the screen right next to the tree lines. And then you can see on the right-hand side where it's going up towards that road. So anyway, I think they're going to try to make this all one large contiguous section for that multi-level parking garage. But this is a good view showing the current state of the construction and the progress that they are making. As we approach the new car testing and calibration line, I'm just trying to see what activity is going on here. At the bottom of the screen, you can see that wind tunnel that's been used for testing of vehicles. And as I zoom in, you can see the supercharger work. And actually, this lot is starting to clear out. And on the left-hand side, near where these tracks are, where they do testing of the Model Ys, you can see this new enclosed section. There's a Model Y sticking out here. That's relatively new. It's been added in the last, let's just say 48 to 72 hours. So interesting to see a new structure there. And again, the superchargers and that new tent next to those stairs right in the between the two sections of the canopy. It's also a good view of that east secondary entrance, and then looking through the windows. A lot of materials, in fact, some of those are silver colored or covered robots that are being stored next to the windows. You can also see work on the roof section, kind of a trolley, and those are people that are doing installation of vents and exhaust ports and other items on the roof. Also looking across, you can see that west support facility and all of the activity that is going on. And then further on the north of at the top of the screen, you could see the international airport. As I bring the drone back down here and zoom in, this gives you a good view of the activity on this east side of the building. Those two large doors, that is where they collect all of the scraps from the stamping machines, and then they are put into trucks and then taken off site for recycling. And here also more equipment on the left hand side, some of it wrapped in that white plastic, waiting for assembly inside stamping 2. The road work at the bottom of the screen is continuing. Now we're getting forms and rebar to extend that concrete to the north. And you can also see how that median is starting to shape up. There should be 2 lanes on each direction. And then the intersection has had all of its concrete poured as well. The south end shows that the CFA drilling cranes and items have been moved to the southeast side of the clearing section where they're going to be doing the expansion. And also we see that the work to add that white stain on the exterior wall continues to work to the north on that east side of stamping. As I fly up over the power lines, this gives you a good view of the CFA drilling rigs right now. The one on the right has got the actual drill itself, and that's making the bore and making sure that it has the room inside to put the concrete in. And then the one on the left has got those cylindrical rebar cages, which are then pressed into the concrete filled bores to make that strong pier system. And here I'll bring the drone down and give you a good view of even more of those cylindrical rebar cages being brought over here. And you can see by the number just how many more are yet to be built. And there's even more of these rebar cages being constructed on the west side, and I'll show you that a little later in the video. But as we fly over this section, we'll approach in the open part of stamping 2. This gives you a good view of the activity right now. Most of the steel has been assembled to extend out from the building, and this also has most of the bridge crane rails to extend the bridge cranes as well. And also it looks like there's still activity on this the west bay, and I'll zoom in and you can see that they tend to be clearing this area out. There's less and less equipment. There is a large crate or a couple of crates that have been delivered, But overall, it looks to me like there's less in this section. So they may be preparing for the next phase of construction or assembly in that area. The temporary wall panels around those door, especially the one on the ground, have been removed. We can see those metal studs, and that'll eventually, once the construction is done, be part of the interior of the building, and so that'll be fitted out very differently. As I pull away, this gives you a good view of the south end, all this area where the construction will be resuming soon to add that extension. And then as I continue to fly away from the building, at the bottom left of the screen, you're going to see this small trailer and also the operations where the crews are making many more of the cylindrical rebar cages, taking a look at the number that have been made and the materials to make even more. This gives you a really good sense of how many more of those piers have to be drilled in this section before they can start doing footing construction. Looks like we got some stair components just going underneath the bottom left of the screen. And then as we approach the building, I'll give you a good view of the areas where the windows and the wall panels have been removed so far. And again, they have that plastic to try to seal it off from a lot of the dust in the environment while the wall panels are out. And as it is right now, it looks like this is the amount of wall panels that they've decided to remove at this time, although the crane is standing ready then to remove more possibly in the near future. Here's where a lot of the windows are being stored in these rack mounts, and you can see the empty rack mounts. That suggests more of the windows will be removed. As we fly over this small well or cistern, I'll give you a good look at some of the materials around here that are being prepared to be moved in. I'll zoom in, and there's some interesting rounded sections of steel next to this green wrapping that's kind of shredded, and you can see that white material. And then here, I'll zoom in again if I can and show you, it looks like these are some pretty substantial pumps. And it looks like there may be 4 of them and then some other material right in the middle, and the wrapping has been taken off. So very interesting. If you happen to know what that would be for, let me know in the comment section of the video. I would very much appreciate it. As we approach into the temporary platform for the 3rd floor, we see this very interesting delivery. Here's a good zoom in, and this gives you some really good close-in views of what they are delivering right now. Again, more equipment that is going to the 3rd floor of General Assembly. So pretty interesting to see this kind of delivery being made and getting ready to be moved up into that open section on top of the platform. So let's fly along the west side and take a look at the west main entrance and its changes today. Crews continue to apply the stainless steel cladding on the steel beams and the columns. It looks like they've been taking up some of the plywood off of that trapezoidal section, which is a good sign. It shows that at least the middle section of the cladding has been installed, and now they're working on this last one closest to the road with some other deliveries. So pretty interesting to see the progress here. So let's get ready to go across the highway and take a look at the action on the west side. And here you go is a good view of the construction that is just moving along at a very fast rate. And I'll give you some really good views of all of the activity. And we'll fly down to the south and then back up to the north so you can get a sense of the construction. But a lot of the footings now have had their rebar cages and at least some of the concrete poured. And we also see a lot of trenching, continuing to trench to the south with that excavator. And most of the length of the building now has either the footings excavated or footings with rebar, or as you can see, they're applying some concrete. It may be a mud base, which may be the first part of the pouring of the concrete. It's kind of hard to tell at this altitude, but some of the footings did look like they had concrete in, at least up to the column mounts. And here's some more of the footings being excavated and a rebar cage being positioned to be put right into that hole just as fast as they are making the excavation. The rebar is going right in. So let's fly back to the north along this section, sort of more towards the middle, and let's see what is going on here in this large pit. Now again, we can see trenching on the left and through the middle of this particular section, almost like a C-shaped trench with some of these white pipes being put in. And you can actually see some of the footings now partially uncovered on the left-hand side. They've already had the concrete and they're putting the forms for where the column bases would be. And then take a look at the excavation shape here. And it's very interesting to see how it looks, and as they continue to add the plumbing in, this may give us some clues as to what this will be. It may be the grease trap that we saw in the permit. So as I get up to a little bit of altitude, I will give you a look at the road that is being constructed, and it's extending all the way from River Road on the south up to Tesla Road on the north, and it looks like there's still some work to be done to finish up the north part. These tents are in this material staging location where some of that's used for landscaping material and other is just basic materials as well. This is a good view of the rest of the road that is still being prepared. Looks like there's some electrical power poles that are going to have to be relocated. So I'll be watching to see if we have the electrical utility crews arrive to do that work. And more of the steel continues to be stored in this section of this area. And the road construction widening of Tesla Road is really starting to take shape. You can actually clearly see the 2 lanes now with the median that will eventually be Tesla Road. All of the underground stormwater pipe has already been laid, and it looks like there's still some of the concrete segments of that still need to be installed somewhere, but most of that section has been completed. And as I turn back to the south, this will give you a good view of the entire west side from this vantage point, looking across Tesla Road to the south. And I hope that you enjoyed those views. So let's get ready to go back across the highway, and we'll resume the flight from here. And let's go take a look at the work going on at the Megapack site today. As we fly up over the power lines to the north end, you can see in the ground the trench work and the conduit that's being installed that connects the north end of the Megapack site all the way up here underneath this dirt road, and you can see the terminus of the conduit right now next to the fence. And here's a good zoom in showing you some of the work that is ongoing right now installing that conduit. And this will be part of the electrical connections that will serve the Megapack and connect it to the electrical switchyard. But here's a really good view of the work that is ongoing right now. It looks like the pipes that they are connecting to already go underneath the road, and that's where that pit is next to the fence. So progress is really moving along here pretty quickly. As we fly along the electrical switchyard itself and over the control room, I want to show you the developments that are going on the south end, where this underground vault continues to be formed and shaped. It looks like the formwork for the middle section of the roof, and where another one of those white kind of control trailers will be located, is nearing the point with rebar installation. As you can see, that we will probably get concrete pours on this section soon, and then the eastern section will then have those forms moved over, and they'll finish up that section, and most likely you'll have another one of those openings like where they are constructing right now, and then there'll be 3 total of those white trailers once this is completed. This also just gives you a really good view of the way that the conduit is connecting over to the Megapack site and how it will come into this vault and then come up through those openings to those white trailers. And as I fly back over the power lines, this gives you a good look at that conduit that is connecting the 2 sites. Also how the Megapack site looks itself, and the electrical system with all of the steel components, the transformers, and the circuit breakers and the disconnect bars on this north end look. Also a good view at the trenching that has been made that goes all the way up to that north end of the electrical switch yard. Here's a good view in of that transformer. You can see 4 of those smaller circuit breaker kind of boxy structures have been placed on 4 of those smaller slabs, and then there's 2 more slabs next to that transformer. The items that will be installed are waiting just off to the right here of the screen. And also those V-top circuit breakers, I think those are going to be mounted onto the transformer itself, but I'm going to be monitoring that and we'll see exactly where those end up going. But this is a good view from the side showing you the entire construction of this site and how the installation of the megapacks and transformers on this section of the site appears today. So let's get ready to fly back over and take a close look at the north end of the main building. This small parking lot with all of the casting racks is showing work right now with the electricians continuing to install wires through the electrical conduit. Here's a good view of what that looks like right now, and you can see the wires going through those conduits. And again, these are pretty large diameter cables that they are installing, and I imagine that they are quite heavy and very stiff to try to maneuver in and around through the openings, through those vaults, and into the conduit. And then underneath here, along this berm on the left-hand side, is where that conduit will continue, and the wires will flow all the way over and into the building. Here's a good look at the deliveries and some of the castings and racks that are next to the northeast side of the casting machine structure, and also some of the work that continues on this north end. It looks like some of this has actually been cleared out. There's a few deliveries going on, but all of the trailers that have been used to reclaim some of that water for testing some of the plumbing, almost all of them have been removed now. And here we see, it looks like a trash bin being removed from the 3rd floor. And again, actually that's the 4th floor. And again, there's a lot of construction going on inside, and some of that steel parts that you see on the bottom left is being installed on the ground floor as they continue to add production capacity here at Giga Texas. The vents and the cooling enclosures on top of the 4680 look pretty much like they have for a while. And here we see the mounts and some of the enclosures that have been installed along that left side of the casting machine structure. It looks like they're at kind of a standstill with that work right now. As we come back over to the east side and look around the power lines, this gives you a good view of how this side is continuing to transform. You can see the apron on the left-hand side getting more of that plumbing still, but all of the receiving doors now look like they have been finished. And so once that is done and put into concrete, they'll finish up with the load leveling system for those last 8 of the receiving docks. As we take a look at the testing and calibration lot again here, you can also tell that there's less vehicles on that lot now, so it looks like they are definitely clearing it out. And the new car staging and transportation lot actually looks fairly empty for today. Not a lot of vehicles staged for pickup, and I'm not sure if it's just because of the timing of the flight or what is going on, but production continues. I just don't know what the current status is right now. As we fly across the East Warehouse on Wheels yard, we can also see the employee overflow lot, and it looks like parking spaces now extend the entire width of this section. Also, the TKS paint system components, it looks like there's been a few recent deliveries as some of the material continues to kind of expand here, but others like the dip tank parts looks like they have been moved inside probably for installation. As we fly up over towards the alleyway between the die shop and the battery cathode plant, we can see more work here in these vaults to install more of the wires through the conduit. Again, this will connect all the way over to the electrical switch yard and provide power for these complex of structures. Here's a good view looking at the work that is going on inside the alleyway between the two structures right now. And as we approach the nitrogen tanks and the vaporizers, I'll give you a good view of the work on the chiller plant, at least from this perspective, and how it looks today. Again, those two stainless steel tanks have been installed. There's two more waiting for installation, and this is a really good close-in view of that roof segment showing the pipe work, the heat exchangers, pumps, and tanks, and how this section is progressing today. So let's fly up to the north and take a look at some of the developments here on the west side of the structure. You see the tree with the fence around it, trying to protect it. One of these workshops, the widened berm over next to the Martin Marietta plant and how that looks today, and the north side of the die shop. And again, that apron with the rails for a gantry crane and those white components sitting waiting for movement inside at some point in the future. As I pull away to the north, this gives you a good view of how this west side looks today with some of the steel corrugated pipe just being stored. Most of the trench work has now been completed for the plumbing, and how this north end by the ponds looks right now. I want to continue to fly to the far northeast because there's a few developments that I want to show you today. My previous video I showed you where the hill on the left-hand side had been removed, and now they're starting to excavate the grade down lower, and you can see that kind of a pit forming. But also, many more of the trees have been removed in this section, and it's kind of extending this entire clearing all the way to the north, up to where the concrete segments have been stored for a while. These are what was the ramp at the south end of the building. They were cut up and brought up here temporarily, but now it looks like they're clearing this entire section out. Here's a zoom in so you can see what it looks like. More earthwork on this side as well. And in my previous videos, I talked about a road that's going to be constructed through this area, and this may be related to that work, but something to continue to watch and see what they do. But as we fly over this area again, you can see how that grade is now going below the level of the grade around, and that's the remnants of what used to be a hill. Those are the two stainless steel tanks that I'd mentioned, and a lot of other materials waiting up here on the northeast side until they're ready for installation. And as we approach the building on the north side, we can see that almost all the glass now, including the corner sections, have been installed. The doors have been installed. They've been working on that concrete apron, and it looks like they're doing some work on the walls around that one receiving door. The cell test lab has all of the underground steel corrugated pipe put around it now, and it looks like they're excavating to the south, just to the west of the Wade pit. And there's also some more excavation work that is going on the east side of the Wade pit. Some looks like large white plumbing pipes have been installed, or at least put here for installation. And we can see all the walls have had the forms removed, all the concrete has been poured, and they're doing some concrete vaults and pipe installation on the east side as well. You also see some good views inside the battery cathode plant from this vantage, taking advantage of all the way the sun is coming in right now. On the north end of the crash test facility, we can see this steel structure is getting the walls installed. Also, it looks like there's going to be a large door, kind of a garage door on the north side. We can also see that brown vehicle rotisserie that we talked about in the video intro today. And this is a really good view of how this section looks now and the changes even from what I talked about in the intro. Looks like the Model X's are still waiting for possibly being used for test purposes. More of the rounded top steel roof has been installed, and it's now approaching where this break in the wall is on the west side. We also see quite a bit of crew working in and around this pit and this reinforced section, which is most likely going to be where that crash wall and the camera systems may be installed as well. And this is a pretty good close-in view of the work and how that system is looking right now. And again, if you take a look at my intro, we'll talk a little bit more about what they are building in that particular section. As we continue further to the south, here's that small kind of square foundation. Looks like the forms are there. The concrete's now been poured. Looks like there's plastic on to help with the curing process. You can also see part of that trench, which will be where the cable goes. Again, this is going to be the electrical equipment and motors that will pull the cable, that will pull the vehicles for that testing. And here's a really good view of how this structure is shaping up now. You can also see the wade pit in the distance and also in the upper right-hand corner of the cell test lab. As I turn back towards this part of the battery cathode plant, I'm going to show you that now 3 levels of this platform with equipment have been installed. Looks like we may see a 4th level. It's hard to tell for sure. There's 2, looks like stainless steel tanks that extend pretty high up above the rest of the equipment, but this is a really good view of what they're installing and how it looks today. You can see inside that white structure, that platform, it was assembled and installed in a very similar way to what we're seeing right now. So there you have it, a view across quite a bit of Giga Texas today, from the west side to the southeast side to the far northeast side, and a lot of changes continue, which is pretty much par for the course for what we see at Giga Texas. I hope that you enjoyed the discussion and the views and what we were able to cover today. Have a great day.